As you know, every website is just an HTML document, and we can use JavaScript to modify anything in this document using what is called the DOM, which stands for Document Object Model, and allows us to select certain elements and add event listeners. For example, in this case, I have a heading that says value 0 and a button, so every time you click here, I want to add 1 to this value. For this, we need to select this value 0 and be able to modify it so we add 1 unit each time. But I also need to add an event listener of the type click, so every time the user clicks here, I can do some functionality. In this case, select this value and add 1. Let's go step by step. First, how to select a value. We can select a value by the tag we are using, but as we might have so many buttons or so many dividers, headings, etc., the best way to accomplish this is with an ID. So I'm going to say button ID. But we can also use a class called button class, which is not a good practice because you might have also lots of buttons with that class. IDs are unique. It's the best way to accomplish if you only want to select one button. There are times when you might want to select multiple elements, but that's more advanced. So I'm only going to show you how to select it. Okay, so for this, I'm going to say const HTML button. Sorry, I got a message here. Const HTML button is equal to document because we are selecting something from the document. And you have here get element by ID, by class name, get elements by name, by tag name, etc. In this case, I'm going to use by ID in between quotes. I'm going to say button ID. Is it right? Button ID. Great. And now I'm going to console.log the HTML button. As you can see, it's null. Like if it doesn't exist, but it's here. I know the button is here and it has an ID, button ID. Why is this happening? Well, because the script is running before this button is created. It's at the top. So this script runs right away. When you load it, right here, it will be executed. But the button doesn't exist. If I move it from there to the button, now we have a button with all its properties that we can modify and change. Okay? This is important. I will show you how to solve it. So when you have the script here at the top, it works fine. Okay, but this is something more advanced, so I will show you later. At the moment, we're going to leave the script tag at the bottom. So we know that the HTML page has loaded when we execute this JavaScript. Okay, so now I have the button and it has a lot of properties right here. If it is disabled, if you can edit content, hidden, you can experiment here. In fact, as you can see, we have something like hidden, and I can say, okay, HTML button dot hidden is equal to true. Now, the element is hidden. You can't see it, but we can change other things like text content is equal to some button change it. Okay, and you can see we're changing the text content, but you can even style it with CSS. So I can say style. HTML button style, color, and it's going to be red. And now the button is red. Or maybe I can say HTML button dot style, and you have here all of the every property you can think of, and the background color is going to be, in this case, going to be red, and the text is going to be white. Okay, and I'm changing this with JavaScript. This means that now I can add conditionals, functions, variables, or anything I want. I can add any functionality I need. And now I'm going to show you about event listeners. So we have the HTML button, and I'm going to add an event listener to this button. So I say HTML button dot add event listener, open parentheses. I'm going to say which event listener I want to use. There are lots of them. You can search for them online. There's lots of information and documentation, but in this case I want to use click. And then I'm going to add a comma and the function I want to execute when this event happens. So I can create a function here. I can say function open and close parentheses, open and close brackets, and say console.log click it. Okay, so every time I click, you see it's appearing here. So we have the number 4 because it has been clicked 4 times, 8 times, etc. But I can move this to another function. So I can declare a function called clicked, open close, and then say console log click it. And instead of declaring the function here, which I'm declaring an anonymous function that doesn't have a name, okay, this anonymous function, I can say, okay, I'm going to pass here the function click it. So now every time you click, this is working, okay? So this is the basic foundation of selecting objects and adding event listeners. Now we can go a little bit more advanced.